So I'm going to talk about better commercial creativity, which is exactly the same thing as how creativity drives business. And the reason I actually joined VCCB joined the IPA back in 2002 was for that one word, effectiveness, because it's at the heart of our business, and it's something that the IPA really stands for as a brand, not only through the awards, but through sort of driving that culture throughout our business. So I wanted to that's at the heart of my agenda, this idea of better commercial creativity and what we need to do to get better at it. So I actually used to be the chair of the Value of Creativity group, which was unfortunately called VAG then, the Value of Advertising group. So that was one good of showing adaptation and evolving. That was a good way to go, I thought. So actually what I did when I became president, in fact, before I became president, went out and talked to a lot of the industry. And the first group I went to speak to was the VCG. And so that's why it's very much at the heart. So I'm going to take you through it now. Now, the background, I don't need to sort of say this to you guys, especially as planners, but that Wordle shows all the sort of things that sort of demonstrate the amount of change that is going on in our industry. And I think when any president joins and sort of comes and looks at their agenda, they're trying to judge the temperature of the industry and where it should be going. I think every president probably says, isn't it changing a lot? But I genuinely think in this particular area there's more change than there ever has been. So if there's constant change going on in the world of communications, through economic pressures, although it's nice to see we may be turning a corner, but for the last 3 or 4 years we've been under the cosh, not just us but our clients as businesses, and how technology is coming in and changing a lot of the way we communicate. So the tools, how brands and consumers are communicating with each other. So this whole area of commercial creativity is what we're about, and I'm trying to make sure that we push on how we evolve that, because I used a Darwin analogy in my opening address, which is, not surprising, not necessarily the strongest survive in a changing environment, but those who are most adaptable to change. So you've got to have a logo, haven't you, for your agenda? So the actual theme is adapt for better commercial creativity, and it's all about adapt, and it's a challenge to the industry at large, not just to ad agencies. The whole point I'm trying to make sure is that it's not just ad agencies that make ads. It's ad agencies with clients and their partners that create commercial creativity. So it's very much an industry-wide challenge. And what we're doing is really a set of initiatives, think tanks, papers and events like this, where we're trying to evolve what we do and look at what we do and see how we can change and adapt to that. And it's really to try and create a win-win. And through trying new things, we should be sharing our learning. So what works, we hopefully take on, and we all take it on further. What doesn't work gets ditched. And so what we're really keen on doing is sharing the learning and promoting best practice and actually outing any bad practice. And that's what the nature of the 2-year agenda is. So ending with really what I'm calling a new commercial creative contract. So if I had to sum it up in a page, who are we talking to? So it's very much not just the ad agency, not just us as an industry, it's the wider industry itself. So we've actually, for the first time as a president, I've actually brought clients in. So we've created a client council of 12 very senior clients from across the industry who are working with the IPA and the IPA Council and the IPA groups at this whole agenda. So looking at how we, clients and agencies and intermediaries and a number of others, actually adapt to get better at commercial creativity. So we're working with the Marketing Society and ISBA and the AA. We're working with intermediaries like Oystercatcher, the AAR, Appraise, research companies, Kingston Smith. We've been over the last 3 or 4 months bringing together, and I think Stephen Mayer's on later on this afternoon, and we'll be sharing one of the ideas that we've been evolving, which is all about social media and how to monitor it. And you'll see one of the client council members there as well. So what are we trying to do? I think I've said it, better commercial creativity, but It's not necessarily we're doing anything really bad, not at all. It's more about evolution rather than revolution. As the UK, we are still at the heart of pushing forward this whole area of commercial creativity, and I'm really proud that we are. But if we want to stay ahead, we need to evolve. And why? Because I think we need to reshape our business model. When you look at the last 30, 40 years, has the agency model with our clients, has it changed that much, the actual business model itself? We're reasonably conservative for a creative industry. So what I'm just trying to do is nudge it forward to see how we can be more dynamic and look at areas of how we actually create this commercial creativity, this value, through looking at our business model. And really the business model in 5 areas. And it's a good old-fashioned acronym, ADAPT. Not always the best words for each of those letters, but they're not bad. So the first one is really alliances. What I'm trying to do there, and I'll touch on a bit more, because this is the sort of, we're looking at over the next 15 months, tackling these areas in phases, so on 3-month sort of focuses. And we're currently in the alliance stage as we evolve into the other areas. So it's really about better longer-term partnerships and less pitching. How do we, because there's a lot of waste in there that we could reinvest in other areas. I'll touch on that more, as I say. The second area is diversification. How are we, as an industry, diversifying out of our traditional products and services into wider content? And that is something we want to look at more and more, how we're using data, how we're using technology to enhance our creativity. The third area is agility. It's really, if we are living in an always-on world of communications, we need to adapt our processes to be more real-time. So from briefing to evaluation, from strategic planning to production, from idea creation to media buying, how do we evolve? How are we more agile in those particular areas? The fourth area is, I could have used lots of P's, so profit, payment, even the word procurement, which is really at the core of our business model. How do we get paid? And we've gone from a commission system to a fee system. I'm looking at how do we go from inputs to outcomes. So where we're actually valued for we're rewarded for the value we create. That is a win-win, that our clients want us to be rewarded on that basis, that we look at risk-reward, but how do we evolve out of an input-based system? And then the fifth area, which is all of us, which is incredibly important because that's what we're about, ideas is about people, is talent. How do we attract, retain and develop more diverse talent? More diverse in terms of gender and culture and age, but also skills, because technology, how we embrace that is really important, how we train and open this up not just to agencies but to clients. So over the next 15 months, that's what we're looking at doing as the ADAPT programme. And what we're trying to do, and if that was a Financial Times article in a couple of years' time, something that the IPA Effectiveness thing, I always think, is very much aimed at the CEO or CFO of a client rather than just the marketing director. So let's go in the Financial Times. Let's be in there, and the headline of client confidence in agency soars as business results demonstrate the value of creativity. That's what we all want to see, better commercial creativity, and get recognised not just within our industry, but in the wider industry and in the boardroom, and increase the standing of marketing in the boardroom. So that's what we're trying to do. And so the ADAPT programme is really a series of initiatives. So there'll be papers. This is something we've got into bed with marketing as a media partner, not just campaign, but we decided to go with marketing as well as wider Haymarket, which is a client and agency publication, not just through their magazine, but through their online. We've created a hub with them. That same hub is on the IPA and the Marketing Society in ISBA, but there's a whole list of papers and articles coming out through them. We've launched various initiatives at Cannes. The long and the short of it, actually, was the first initiative that we launched back in April. And I think Les is here. Is Les here today? I think he's here later on. But Les Benet and Peter Field, very much at the heart of effectiveness as us as an industry. Their latest paper, the long and short of it, is something I'm sure he'll touch on later on. And of course, the first Adaptorthon here, just under 2 weeks ago, we were in this particular building on this floor with our first event that we called an Adaptorthon, which I'll just touch on in a minute. In fact, touch on now. An Adaptorthon is really based on the idea of a hackathon, where we've got clients and agencies and intermediaries and all sorts of industry contributors together to hack the future of client-agency relationships, because that's the foundation of a new business model, is how do we work together to create win-win. And the aim, as I say, was better commercial creativity through better relationships. So we're looking at creating these Adaptorthons every 3 months around the acronym. We had 175 people attend, and we had about 30 to 40 clients within that. So it was a really good cross-industry initiative, and we came out with several things that you'll be reading about and probably have already read about. But I'm going to whiz you through the top line of what we actually did. So to start with, we said, well, what's the problem? The problem in this particular area is the trend is going down. If you look at that chart, over the last 25, 30 years, client-agency relationships have halved. And at the same time, where we all know this, and it's something that I might put the challenge back to you guys about the value of long-term relationships in delivering better commercial creativity. This is one very famous example of VW and DDB. I mean, that's a 63-year relationship. When you look at what they actually produce from a commercial creative point of view, I mean, one great way of looking at it is 3 cars in the top 10 list of best-selling cars of all time, as well as look at all the IPA Effectiveness awards. I could have picked a number of examples of partnerships where they're working really well together and how they produce better commercial creativity. But it's weird how relationships are actually going down when we know this, looking at the data bank, how it actually is proven that the longer you stay together, the more you understand each other, the better the work. Not only that, but this is an interesting ISBA and IPA new business survey. It looked at the cost of pitching. And if you look at a large agency, for example, it's the equivalent of 100 man days, £178,000 worth of cost for an average pitch. So if you costed all the sort of creatives and the planners and the account handlers, as well as the external costs like research or producing tapes or creative work, £178,000 on average. So there's a big cost to agencies, but there's also clients. They reckon it costs them on average £30,000 to do a pitch. And as you'll see there, not only the cost of actually doing the pitch, but David Magliano, one of the client counsellors, saying minimum 6 to 9 months for an agency to come up to speed. So if you're changing every 3 years, nearly a third of it is actually coming up to sort of proficiency. So it is weird how management consultants, really, when they look at us as an industry, take the mickey out of us for the amount of pitching we do, the amount of we give away our product, when you look at the waste on both sides. So this is a sort of provocation we used at the actual Adaptorthon was, well, why is this happening? Well, and I deliberately did it to sort of wind a few people up in the room, but clients get the agencies they deserve. This is a very famous quote from David Ogilvy. Now, you would say that, an agency man would probably say that, but it's interesting to see Jonathan Mildenhall from Coke saying exactly the same thing 50 years later. But David Ogilvy went through 10 of his chapters, out of his 14 chapters in his book, were looking at how do you manage relationships better to get better work. And not only opinion, but Appraise have got data across the last decade or more, is they've got 10,000 client agency relationships that they look at, and they collect data on it. And it's not just in the UK, it's internationally, where they look at between good performing agency client relationships and bad performing, measured across 4 criteria of approvals, briefings, timings, and behaviours, is that there's a 37% difference in creative output for creative agencies and 21% for media agencies. So there's lots of facts to say the better you work together, the better the work. So all I really wanted to say was today, you, the effectiveness community, you, the planners who are driving effectiveness at the heart of our industry, you know, one particular area of relationships. How does the value of relationships link to the value of creativity and business impact? Is that something that you should be looking at more? Is that something, for example, in the Effectiveness Awards, that I believe there's a new category each year? Is that something that's actually worth looking to? What's one of the drivers of creativity and commercial creativity? And not just around the A for alliances, but across the other 4 areas. When you look at us as a business, the products we do, how we do it, the processes, how we're paid, and the talent we bring in, your thoughts on how we can all drive that value of creativity across our business through those particular areas is more than welcomed. In fact, the whole idea of it is to get people's input, to share the learnings, and to sort of everyone to sort of benefit from that. So I encourage you all to participate. Now, I thought I'd just end with just reminding us all, we're in an ad agency sort of summit. I was going to do a quick tape just to remind us all of the value of creativity, which just brings out some of the things we do at the IPA Effectiveness. So I hope that the day goes well, and I look forward to hearing what comes from it. Thank you.